Welcome back, everyone. In this video, we will discuss about emotional interaction. It's designing technology to detect and recognize someone's emotions automatically from sensing aspects of their facial expressions, body movements, gestures, and so forth. Is a growing area of research, often called emotional AI or affective computing. There are many potential applications for using automatic emotion sensing other than those intended to cheer someone up, including health, retail, driving, and education. So these are the industries where it is most often used in health, such as in the surgery area where robots provide a signal or music that aligns the emotion on the task at hand. In automotive industry, it is being used a lot. So Japanese actually understand a lot because they are the top manufacturers of automotive in the world. So they know a lot about this design principle. This can be used to determine if someone is happy, angry, bored, frustrated, and so on in order to trigger an appropriate technology intervention, such as making a suggestion to them to stop and reflect or recommending a particular activity for them to do. So, like what I've said, this tool has been used or and being used to remind people of their activity that they need to do because it's built on the principle that our memory is limited. So it the technology allow us to use less recall, then we will be able to do more with that technology because a lot of times the interaction just need some nudge or some choices for us to do, such as in website or technical support. You are essentially listening to all of this notification and then decide based on that. In addition, emotional design is a growing area relating to the design of technology that can engender desired emotional states. For example, apps that enable people to reflect on their emotions, moods, and feelings. The focus is how to design interactive products to evoke certain kinds of emotional responses in people. It also examines why people become emotionally attached to certain products. For instance, virtual pets, how social robots might help reduce loneliness, and how to change human behavior through the use of emotive feedback. So, emotional design is basically you're trying to predict the customer's emotions with your product. So it's a growing field of research on how to use emotion to get the desired output. We begin by explaining what emotions are, how they shape behavior and everyday experiences. We then consider how and whether an interface appearance affects usability and the user experience. In particular, we look at how expressive and persuasive interface can change people's emotion or behavior, how technology can detect human emotions using voice and facial recognition is then covered. Emotions and behavior. Consider the different emotions one experiences throughout everyday activity. Shopping online for a product such as a new laptop, a sofa, or a vacation. First, there is the realization of needing or wanting one, and then the desire and anticipation of purchasing it. This is followed by the joy or frustration of finding out more about what products are available and deciding which to choose from potentially hundreds or even thousands of them by visiting numerous websites such as comparison sites, reviews, recommendations, and social media sites. So, what best example we can provide to describe how the technology affect our behavior? No other else than online shopping. So, Here's an example of the coaster we experience while we are getting the or trying to decide what to buy online. The thrill of deciding on a purchase may be quickly followed by the shock of how much it costs and the disappointments that it is too expensive. The process of having to revise your decision may be accompanied by annoyance. If you discover that nothing is as good as the first choice, it can become frustrating to keep looking and revisiting sites. Finally, when you make your decision, a sense of relief is often experienced. Then there is the process of clicking through the various options such as color, size, warranty, and so forth until the online payment form pops up. This can be tedious, and the requirement to fill in the many details raises the possibility of making a mistake. Finally, when the order is complete, you can let out a big sigh. However, doubts can start to creep in. Maybe the other one was better after all. So it also covers the principle we've discussed in the cognitive frameworks, which people tend to buy things from people they already know or product they already use. So there is a lot of emotional roller coaster just to switch on that new product. But once that switch, then the economics flips. It is now the product the new product is now in the position to take over the customer. So have you seen one of the terminals shown in figure 6.1 at an airport after you have gone through security? Were you drawn toward it and did you respond? If so, which smiley button did you press? So here, happy or not terminal located after security at Heathrow Airport. Happy or not designed the feedback terminals that have been used in many airports throughout the world. The affordance of the large, colorful buttons laid out in semicircle with distinct smileys makes it easy to know what is being asked of the passerby, enabling them to select among feeling happy, angry, or something in between. More recent designs use a flat tablet as the interface. The data collected from the buttons presses provides statistics for an airport as to when and where people are happiest and angriest after going through security. Data from the beginning of 2022, when traveling was beginning to reach pre-pandemic levels, show that the best day of the week to fly is Wednesday, while the worst is Sunday. The unhappiest times recorded are in the early hours of the morning, presumably because people are tired and grumpier. So even in this understanding behavior, we use the end, which is the data or analytics. Such as this, we conducted research and we found that for travelers, the unhappiest times recorded are in the early hours of the morning. So take note, it's not good to travel in the morning. Emotional interaction is concerned with what makes people feel happy, sad, annoyed, anxious, frustrated, motivated, delirious, and so on. And then using this knowledge to inform the design of different aspects of the user experience. Should an interface be designed to try to keep a person happy when it detects that they are smiling, or should it try to change them from being in a negative mood to a positive one when it detects that they are scowling? Having detected an emotional state, a decision has to be made as to what or how to present information. So, emotional interaction is basically the what makes people feel happy, sad, annoyed, anxious, frustrated, motivated, delirious. So this knowledge informed the design of different aspects of the user experience. So this is where our interface are also being decided. So it depends on the task that we are trying to accomplish. For example, the person A happy person, when it detects that they are smiling, should it try to change from being in a negative mood to a positive one when negative mood can be more helpful? So that's a question that you need to ask. First, should it try to smile back through using various interface elements such as emojis, feedback, and icons? How expressive should it be? It depends on whether a given emotional state is viewed as desirable for the user experience or the task at hand. So the useful interface elements are emojis, icons, and feedbacks for emotions. A happy state of mind might be considered optimal for when someone goes to shop online if it is assumed that this will make them more willing to make a purchase. Advertising agencies have developed a number of techniques to influence people's emotions. Examples include showing a picture of a cute animal or a child with hungry, big eyes on a website that pulls at the heartstrings. The goal is to make people feel sad or upset what they observe and make them want to do something to help, such as making a donation. Will you help someone here to take their first step out of homeless? So these have been used by advertising agency to influence people to donate. Third point, sometimes an emotion can descend upon us but disappear shortly. Afterward, for example, we can become startled by a sudden, unexpected loud noise. At other times, an emotion can stay with us for a long time. For example, we can remain annoyed for hours when staying in a hotel room that has a noisy or air conditioning unit. An emotion like jealousy can keep simmering for a long period of time, manifesting itself on seeing or hearing something about the person or thing that triggered it. The terms emotion, mood, and feeling are often used interchangeably. However, they can differ in temporality or in time frame. Emotions tend to happen in the moment as a response, like crying, to a trigger, like becoming sad on hearing someone had died. A mood is more a frame of mind or disposition. They were in a good mood that can develop and last for longer periods of time. Feelings can be either an expression of an emotion, he felt sad, or a mood, she felt grumpy. A good place to start understanding how emotions affect behavior and how behavior affects emotions is to examine how people express themselves and read each other's expressions. This inclusive understanding the relationship between facial expressions, body language, gestures, and tone of voice. For example, when people are happy, they typically smile, laugh, and relax their body posture. When they are angry, they might shout, gesticulate, tense their hands, and screw up their face. A person's expression can trigger emotional responses in others. When someone smiles, it can cause others to feel good and smile back. So, a good place to understand emotions and how it affects behavior is to examine how people express themselves and read each other's expression. So, we usually read it using facial expression, body language, gestures, tone of voice. So, those are the things that we look for. Emotional skills, especially the ability to express and recognize emotions, are central to human communication. Most people are highly skilled at detecting when someone is angry, happy, sad, or bored by recognizing their facial expression, way of speaking, and other body signals. They also usually know what emotions to express in a given situation. For example, when someone has just heard they have failed an exam, it is not a good time to smile and be happy for them. Instead, people try to empathize and show that they feel sad too. So the There is actually an emotional skills, which is the ability to express and recognize emotions, whether it's you or other people. Most people are highly skilled at detecting it. The basic emotions, such as angry, happy, sad, or bored, by recognizing their facial expressions, way of speaking, and other body signals. They also usually know what emotions to express in a given situation. So that's like a learned human ability. That's why that is actually harder than it seems. That's why reading fiction are so important because it rarely happened to you or to people the bad or sad experiences or worst experiences that could happen. So if you read like a lot of fiction, you're able to empathize and not be brokenhearted when you experience it yourself. So Roy Baumeister et al. 2007 discussed how the role of emotion is more complicated than a simple cause and effect model, noting how it often depends on the context as to how and whether one triggers the other. Mayer, Tamir, and Yochanan Brigman in 2017 also suggest how emotions shape behavior depends partially on people's expectations and the emotional state they are in. So it depends on their expectation, the things that they have read when they were young, and it also depends on the current emotional state. So maybe they are experiencing a lot of challenge in their life currently, so it might not be the best time for them to express or recognize their emotions. For example, in a series of experiments investigating the relationship between performance and emotion, they found that excited participants were more creative when they were told the excited could promote performance. Conversely, calm participants were more creative when they were told that calmness would promote performance. A widely accepted explanation derived from evolutionary psychology is that something makes someone frightened or angry, their emotional response is to focus on the problem at hand and try to overcome or resolve the perceived danger. The psychological responses that accompany this state usually include a rush of adrenaline through the body and the tensing of muscles, while the psychological changes prepare people to fight or flee. They also give rise to unpleasant experiences, such as sweating, butterflies in the stomach, quick breathing, heart pounding, and even feelings of nausea. Nervousness is a state of being that is often accompanied by several emotions, including apprehension and fear. For example, many people get worried and some feel terrified before speaking at public event. There is even a name for this kind of nervousness, stage fright. Andreas Komnenos 2017 suggests that it is an autonomous system telling people to avoid these kinds of potentially humiliating or embarrassing experiences. Some are able to turn their nervous state to their advantage, using the increase in adrenaline to help them focus on their performance. Others are only too glad when the performance is over and they can relax again. As mentioned earlier, emotions can be simple and short lived or complex and long lasting. To distinguish between two types of emotions, researchers have described them in terms of being either automatic or conscious. Automatic emotions, also known as affect, happen rapidly, typically within a fraction of a second, and likewise may dissipate just as quickly. Conscious emotions, on the other hand, tend to be slow to develop and equally slow to dissipate, and they are often the result of a conscious cognitive behavior, such as weighing the odds, reflection, or contemplation. So there's a difference between unconscious and conscious. Conscious tends to last longer. So unconscious tend to be short-lived, and it also vanish as easy as it comes. As early study by Christel Pitcher 2009 found that people slow down while driving in a car simulator when they listen to either happy or sad music as compared to neutral music. This effect is thought to be due to the drivers focusing their attention on the emotions and lyrics of the music. Listening to happy music was also found not only to slow drivers down but to distract them more by reducing their ability to stay in their lane. This did not happen with the sad music. More recently, research has shown how fast, loud, and rhythmic music can lead to a riskier driving behavior, such as driving faster or overtaking, when demanding urban settings. Cara Georges, 2022. It seems it is preferable to listen to slow music when driving conditions are stressful. For example, Don Norman 2005 suggests that being in a positive state of mind can enable people to be more creative as they are less focused. When someone is in a good mood, it is thought to help them make decisions more quickly. He suggests that when people are happy, they are more likely to overlook and cope with minor problems that they are experiencing with a device or interfaces. So it's been known or a belief that when people are happy, they are more likely to overlook and cope with minor problems on your uh, system. In contrast, when someone is anxious or angry, they are more likely to be less tolerant. Anthony Ortoni, Don Norman, and Williams Rebel in 2005 developed a classic model of emotion and behavior, couched in terms of different levels of the brain. At the lowest, parts of the brain are pre-wired to respond automatically to events happening in the physical world. This is called the visceral level. At the next level are the brain processes that control everyday behavior. This is called behavioral level. At the highest level are brain processes involved in contemplating. This is called reflective level. So for visceral level, that's your perceptual awareness, like your visibility, your um, ability to hear. So those are like automatic that you're not aware that you are conscious of. The visceral level responds rapidly, making judgment about what is good, bad, safe, or dangerous, and pleasurable, or abhor- abhorrent. It also triggers the emotional response to stimuli, for instance, fear, joy, anger, and sadness, that are expressed through a combination of psychological and behavioral response. For example, many people will experience fear on seeing a very large, hairy spider running across the floor of the bathroom, causing them to scream and run away. The behavioral level is where most human activities occur. Examples include well-learned routine operations such as talking, typing, and swimming. Talking, typing, swimming, reading, those are just behavioral because you choose to do that and you develop a habit over time. While the reaction, the fast reaction we have in visceral level, for me, for example, when I do like motorcycle, it is rare for me to I never had major accident with motorcycle because I think I have a very high visceral level or visceral awareness needed to avoid that accident. At the same time, like reading fiction while young, and then especially complex classic fiction, allows you to increase your visceral awareness. So instead of you needing to be conscious on your behavior and what to do, you just get it in visceral level. So yeah, it becomes your long-term skill or like long-term advantage. The reflective level entails conscious thought where people generalize across events or step back from their daily routines. An example is switching between thinking about the narrative structure and special effects used in a horror movie and becoming scared at the visceral level when watching the movie. So, reflective level is about also the reading of these complex books because it needs you to be obsessed or like imagine the characters in the books. So it allows you to have this reflective where you are switching between thinking about the narrative structure and special effects used in a horror movie. So that's a reflective thinking in action. Visceral design refers to making products look, feel, and sound good. Again, that's your eyes, the feeling, the gesture, sense of touch, sense of hearing. Behavioral design is about use and equates to the traditional values of usability. Reflective design is about considering the meaning and personal value of a product in a particular culture. For example, the design of a swatch can be viewed in terms of the three levels. The use of cultural images and graphical elements is designed to appeal to certain people at the reflective level. The affordances of use at the behavioral level and brilliant colors will design and attract their attention at the visceral level. They are combined to create distinctive swatch trademark that explain style and personality, designing to induce different levels of emotional response. Understanding who the target audience is and what the context of use will be. Swatch customers are likely to be young and fashion conscious. So again, it the visceral, like the behavior and the reflective, are all interconnected. Because for this, for you to be able to understand the how to trigger the visceral of this is you need to understand the culture. To understand the culture, you need to activate your reflective thinking, right? So another model has been used to inform interaction design is Plagic Wheel of Emotion, originally developed in 1980. Interaction Design Foundation 2021 in Figure 6.5 shows how the wheel categorizes human emotions into seven well-known emotions: anger, disgust, fear, sadness, anticipation, joy, and surprise. So there's a seven emotion again: anger, disgust, fear, sadness, anticipation, joy, and surprise. It also includes trust as another one, which is not usually considered as an emotion. Alongside these typical responses are labels: optimism, love, submission, awe, disapproval, remorse, contempt, aggressiveness. Other emotions are considered to be a combination of derived from these. So it's like color. So the seven basic emotions are here. Where is that? Here. Anger, anticipation, joy, trust, fear, surprise, sadness, and disgust. And the darker it is, the more intense the emotion, the lighter it is, the lighter the emotion. Serenity, interest, annoyance, boredom, permissiveness, destruction, apprehension, acceptance. And then light, optimism, love, submission, awe, disapproval, remorse, contempt, aggressiveness. With the intense part is vigilance, ecstasy, admiration, terror, amazement, grief, uh, loathing, rage. Yeah. So the wheel can be used as a color palette akin to UX model board by selecting and blending different emotions from the wheel. A designer can begin to think about how to elicit different kinds and levels of emotional response. In essence, the wheel provides an initial way of exploring the possible effects of triggering different combination of adjacent serenity and pensiveness and non-adjacent emotions for different stages for user experience. As you can see, guys, the principles of this was taken from the color principle, which has a basic color, and then the more intense, the different. I mean, the more intense and light, the different the color. So Here is probably one of the useful metaphor to understand how this emotion works. And again, we can combine this as the principle of design to any other combination that will suit us to help us with the task at hand. It does not, however, instruct the designer on how to design for a selection of emotions. So thankfully, it does not instruct because then you can experiment on your own. So if it instruct, it does not provide like a leeway for improvement because these are not like perfect. So you can combine on your own and try it. Maybe the new combination that you will try will work for you. So that's the reason it does not provide that concrete rules. These conceptual tools for thinking about what kinds of behavior and emotion design for. However, a games designer still has to make the leap in determining which specific game features to use to match the desire of emotional state, such as how much excitement and fear to incorporate into a new game. The palais metaphor used by the wheel one can help designers consider different aspects of game. For example, highlighting the need to design specific mechanisms that can elicit an anticipation and surprise at the beginning while avoiding boredom and distraction later. So again, we'll continue here with the three and then four effective computing and emotional AI, and then persuasion technologies and behavioral change, and then anthropomorphism in the summary. Again, guys, thank you for watching and see you on the next